Thanks. Well, welcome everyone to, this is the second time we are running the Instructional Systems Design course fully online. We're so excited to have you. Most of what we want to do today is just get to know the group. We're all going to be working together over the course of the next 6 or 7 weeks and troubleshoot the technology, make sure we can all use the functionality in the live meetings, and we'll look at Litmos a little bit and make sure you're able to navigate and get to the things that you need there and the shared Google Drive. But before we jump into that, I thought it'd be fun to find out a little bit about everyone. So Kristen, I was thinking we could do quick intros as instructors and then let everyone maybe share a little bit about themselves and a new pandemic hobby or skill they've learned. And then next we could go around again and have everyone talk about what they hope to learn, get out of this course. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yep, let's do that.
Okay. So I know most of you on the call, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kelly Cutchin. I work for a small contracting company that supports DOE weatherization at the federal level, but that means I get to work with all the different states and tribes and territories and the Trainers Consortium, which is kind of a loose affiliation of trainers around the whole country. And I've been doing this coming on 13 years now. Yeah, I just love it. I love this program, and working with training and education and workforce stuff is really where I've found my niche. I guess my biggest new pandemic hobby skill has been gardening. Our gardens blew up last year and then expanded again this year, so that's been pretty fun. Kristen, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Kristen Ferguson. I work with IREC, the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, which some people might know through IREC accreditation. And I started with them about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And I have been an IREC assessor. So I have both put together training courses, but I also have assessed training courses, and I've worked with our assessors. But what I primarily do now, and in the last 5 or 6 years, is training development and online training in particular, and instructor-led training in person. And so I, like Kelly, did an instructional design program through Boise State, where we learned a lot. I learned a lot, and I've also learned a lot the hard way. So as we were putting together kind of our materials for this course, we most certainly tried to give you lots of different examples. And, some are good, some are intentionally to kind of make you think about things. And so we are looking forward to, answering any question you have or kind of learning alongside with you. I am in Concord, Massachusetts, which is outside of Boston. And let's see, over the course of the pandemic, there was not a lot of free time because I have 2 young kids and they were home from school quite a bit. But I did break out my unicycle from 30 some years ago to see if I could still ride it, and I can still ride it. And I can still not juggle while riding a unicycle. That I never mastered.
You're going to have to do a demonstration.
Yeah.
I think I could do that. I was thinking I could probably do it in my kitchen. So everybody who gets here early next week might be treated to me like going right back and forth in this doorway.
Sweet, I'll juggle. Okay.
All right, I'll go next. This is Robin Burton. I'm a research analyst with the National Renewable Energy Lab. I'm sure you all know us as NREL. NREL does a lot of work to support the WAP, including supporting training efforts. So we are working to help coordinate and support this instructional systems design course, in addition to some other activities. It's been a pleasure working with Kelly and Kristen on putting together this course. let's see, I've been at NREL for about 3 years. After a career shift, I went back to school to get my Master of Public Health degree and took an interest in health and how we do energy. So this has been a great application of those interests. For many years before going back to school, I worked as an assistant store manager for Whole Foods Market. And so I have some adult learning experience coordinating safety and food safety training for our team members, among many other hats that I would wear in that role. Anyway, it's a delight to be with you all for this second session of this course. As far as a hobby, during the pandemic, we took up backyard chicken keeping. So it's been really fun getting to know our little chicken personalities and learning how to be our own chicken veterinarians and all the things that come along with that. I live in Denver, Colorado. So pleasure to meet you all and be here.
Do you want to then go down the list the way you see it, maybe, so we don't have people stumbling over each other?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So next on my list is Ron.
Good afternoon. I'm in a really bad spot. So I don't know if you can hear me. My internet keeps dropping in and out. I'm a new mechanical instructor for MyTech, reaching back into my teaching days. In 34 years ago, I was actually looking to be a teacher, and now it's come full circle. My background is in heating and air, and I've worked in many, many different states, too many to name with the in and out internet. Looking forward to gaining some instructional skills and moving forward from there. And what I learned last year with this COVID pandemic, we'll just leave it at that.
You cut out for me at a key moment, Ron. I missed what you learned.
Bears win.
Patience.
Patience.
Ah.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay, thanks, Ron. Next on the list.
Next week, I'll be in a little bit better spot, so I won't have this issue of fading in and out.
Sounds good. All right, next on my list is Pamela.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pamela Gorsuch. I live in the state of California, and I am a consultant to the Department of Community Services and Development. I started off as a high school teacher and then adult education first, and then sort of found my way through the way of things one summer into a side position, and started with the energy consulting company I work for now. That was 21 years ago, and worked my way up from the ground floor. To give y'all a little bit of context, I'm 8 miles away from the town of Paradise, which is the one that burned a couple of years ago. So I'll go for the sympathy vote there. But we are coming back, building stronger, and doing some interesting energy things up there as well. So it's nice to meet y'all. Oh, and what I learned during during the pandemic, I finally got through the stack of books that I've been saying I would read for the last 10 years. So any good reading recommendations that y'all happen to have, drop my way, please.
Wonderful. Good to meet you, Pamela. Next on my list is Suzanne.
Hi, everyone. Suzanne Hermelink with Slipstream. I lead the team for the Training and Technical Services Department, and we are in Madison, Wisconsin. Been working on training for a lot of years, have done a lot of things right and a lot of things wrong over those years. Looking forward to this training. As far as pandemic, I did a lot of reading, so Pamela, you and I should connect at some point. Thanks.
Thanks, Suzanne. And Pete, you're up next.
Had to find the cursor to turn the mute off. I am Pete, in Chicago native, never lived outside Chicago. Been with CETA for 8 years, the weatherization department, and from what I understand, it's the biggest in the nation. I'm going to stick with that until I learn otherwise. My previous career is in the veterinary field for 26 years into management and training as well. Took other like brief courses and stuff, but nothing as in depth as this, I presume, will be. And looking forward to really getting a lot out of this so that I can do things more, not officially, but more, you know, along the lines of real adult learning training for new hires and current employees and everybody else involved, including contractors. And during COVID, I've become reacquainted with my fitness and started dating apps for the first time.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you, Pete. Wonderful to
Thanks.
meet you. Next up is Corey.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Shvanek. I'm with Slipstream. Have a background in the weatherization stuff for about the last, I did the math on that. It was like 25 years. So it's kind of crazy how the years have flown, but ultimately started on a weatherization crew and then kind of did the whole, worked on the crew, did the crew supervisor, final inspector, trainer, and then got the opportunity to switch over to Slipstream where I've been for the last 11 years. And so I could be a little biased, but work with the best building science specialists in the country on a daily basis. So as far as the pandemic stuff goes, I mean, I have two littles, finished their first and fourth grade today, and we had tiers for the virtual learning just about every day at the beginning, and then in the end we did not have tiers. So something happened in between there, and maybe that's my goal here, to not make the WAP network cry when they take online training.
That's a good connection. I like it. And happy summer break to your kids. That's exciting.
Thanks.
Yeah. Chris, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Chris Willman, and I'm the training director at Indiana Community Action Agency here in Indianapolis. And I was previously a geologist, and then about 13 years ago, jumped over into weatherization and started my own company. And I've been at Inca for almost 4 years. And from this course, I hope to gain, I feel like our curriculum is good, the content is good. And we learned a lot of new skills, making videos and Zoom over the last year. So to learn to take our curriculum to the next level and make it shinier and flashier and just a little more professional is the goal here. And pandemic, I did a lot of camping. I have a 19-year-old son who is going to be away for the whole summer, and suddenly he wasn't away for the whole summer. So I got to have that precious time with him. And so we did a lot of dispersed camping in the national forest and state forest where there weren't campgrounds. So really reinvented our camping skills. And then I learned to finish hardwood flooring. So I'm still working on it.
That's great, Chris. It sounds like you've kept yourself busy. I like it.
Have.
And out in the world.
Yeah.
Robert.
Hello, it's Robert Parkhurst. I work for Slipstream. I'm not in Madison. Don't want to be in Madison. Won't ever be in Madison. Not to live, anyways. I live in the northern part of Wisconsin, where it's a lot nicer. Home of the supercomputers, Cray Research, Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. I've been working in weatherization for 34 years, 3 months, 6 days, and 4.5 hours. I just did an Excel calculator for that. So that's what I like to do with Excel spreadsheets. As far as pandemic, old dogs don't learn new tricks, so I didn't learn anything new. I did what I always did before the pandemic, except when I wasn't allowed to.
Great to meet you, Robert. Thanks for that intro. Terry, you're next on the list.
Hey, everybody. My name's Terry Emelander, and I am a technical instructor with the Michigan Training and Education Center. I have been through the ISD previously in person, but was way, way over my head with it. So I'm looking to kind of grasp it a little better this go around and improve the curriculum that I've developed as a part of MyTech's accreditation process. And what I've learned in the time of COVID was a thing called geocaching that my younger two kids kind of got us involved with, which is using military satellite to find Tupperware in the woods, kind of scavenge.
Yeah, Terry, if I remember, hadn't you been hired just like weeks before that course?
Yes, absolutely. Maybe 10 days before that course. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Terry. Good to meet you.
Thank you.
Just to confirm, do we have Victoria Stewart on the line? Looks like not, but wanted to make sure. Okay, next up is Fitsum.
Hello, I am Fitsum Abebe. I live in Urbana-Champaign, and I'm instructional designer for weatherization University of Illinois for training. So I am new, actually. I started in March. My background is instructional technology. I just finished my PhD in instructional technology. I worked with before with faculty, higher ed instructors, and educators. And this is a little bit different for me, and in a good way. And I am happy to meet you all, and I met already wonderful people here. I just moved 3 weeks ago. Actually, I was remote in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska. I was there, then I moved in person here, and I met my group. So I am exploring the city and Urbana-Champaign, and going around with my 2 kids and my husband. In COVID, actually, the big thing that brought for us positively is more relationship with your kids, your family, and we have time a lot. So I cooked a lot. I am originally from Ethiopia. If you know Ethiopian food, maybe if you tasted somewhere, you can guess what I was cooking. So a little bit, I taught for my kids the tradition and the food, and it is a very big thing that positively impacted my family, even though we don't like COVID, but there is a good thing that brought with it as well. So nice to meet you, and I will see what we can do together.
That's wonderful, Fitsum. Welcome, and it's a pleasure to meet you. I love Ethiopian food and hearing about you cooking in your family. That's wonderful. Thank you. Marcy, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Marcy Chandler. I am the training coordinator for CETA Weatherization. We're now in South Holland at our new training center. So my background is actually it's instructional design, higher education. I have about 14 years experience as an instructional designer through Kaplan University, Purdue. I also did some teaching along, face-to-face with high schoolers and junior high students. So I have a wide range of teaching experience from adults to children. And to tell you the truth, there's no difference between a kindergartner and a 40-year-old. So depending on what you're teaching them. So I've been with CETA for a year and a half, maybe. I was brought in by Jay West as the training coordinator. So now we're revamping all of our training over at CETA for existing employees and new hires. And so I already have a grasp of the instructional design part. Now I'm working on getting the grasp of the weatherization component of it. So I work closely with Pete Kushner. And so I think together we'll be great. I think with his expertise in weatherization and mine and instructional design, hopefully we'll come up with some dynamic curriculum together. And what I learned in the pandemic is I think I worked more those 9 months that I was at home than I ever did going into an office every day. That's it.
All right, great. Thank you, Marcy. Pleasure to meet you, and great to know that we have connections among participants in the group.
Yes.
So thanks for highlighting that. That's great. Next up is Greg.
Hello, everyone. My name is Greg Nahn. I'm 3 years with Slipstream and 20 years prior to that with Wisconsin Energy Conservation Corporation. You may know that Slipstream and WAC did merge, but so that puts about 23 or 24 years in residential construction. A lot of training early on. I'd call it market-based training. We were training raters. We were training BPI building analysts. We were training people who actually paid to come to the training. I tend to think they pay a lot more attention. I still do a little bit of that, but I also have in the last 5 years really started to train in support of Wisconsin's weatherization agencies. So again, kind of the BPI analyst training, the energy auditor training. Been training for a long time. Was an energy auditor for a while, but quickly, like Corey, became a trainer and a QCI inspector and a ResNet QAD. I know ResNet, let's not talk about them, but quality assurance for new construction, existing homes, LEED homes, green homes, manufactured homes, but mostly everything has been for me residential. I've taken several instructional design courses. I don't know if my work actually shows that I have, but several from Deb Laurel early on. I don't know if you know Deb Laurel, but she was great in doing an initial train the trainer here in Wisconsin. And then I think it was Sam Doherty, who we did it last time with, and we did it. It was a one-day thing. This looks familiar to me. I know it's going to be a little bit longer, and we're going to have to put in more work for sure. Just reading the outlines and stuff like that. I guess, my goals, Corey and I were both thrown into virtual training, doing training online. I guess Robert was too, and so was Suzanne. And it's always a struggle to make that engaging for the participants. And I think we did struggle with that, though we got through it. And I don't know if it's timely anymore, because we'll be going back to classroom training as soon as possible, but trying to make online training more engaging for people, more interactive for people. That was really a goal for maybe last year, like I say, where I did 3 different trainings, 3 different topics over the course of the last year. My other goal would be, I have 2 things on my plate, maybe more than 2 things, but 2 trainings that are going through a redesign and a redevelopment. So I will probably bring those to this class and work on those as my project. And then what was the last thing? What did I learn during the pandemic? That Malamutes make really good pets. I have 2 Alaskan Malamutes, and I think I love them more than my kid. I take them to the dog park all the time. They love the snow, and if they could come in here now, they would. They're just tremendous. My passions are in the winter sports, particularly snowboarding. I get to Colorado every single year. I have a good friend that lives in Steamboat, so we go kind of hard with that. And then in the summer, if you could look behind me, that's what Lake Mendota looked like yesterday afternoon around 6:30. It was smooth as can be, and my son and I both like to tow surf behind a motorboat. So that's hopefully where I'll be this afternoon too. That's it
great.
For me.
Greg, was that a veiled warning that we should have charged for this course?
No.
we
But
want
I mean,
people to-
when people pay $1,500 or whatever, $1,700 to spend a week with you, they tend to take the homework a lot more seriously. They do the readings, they come with questions, and that's not to knock anything that we do currently. But
I'm just joking with you. I know.
but I did a lot of more market-based stuff. I did a lot of training in Illinois initially in support of BPI building analyst, and in I want to say it was Missouri. When their home performance programs were adopting, when they were evolving, they were adopting the building analyst certification as a baseline for all the auditors. And myself and Keith Williams went down and did a lot of that early training. Since then, the people we've trained have replaced us as trainers, which is fine with me, as long as the training is of quality.
Just to make sure we get through everyone, I wrote down yours. We originally we're going to have the quick intro and talk about what you learned during COVID, and then we were going to go around again and have everyone talk about what you hope to get out of the course and challenges you faced before. So just so that those of you who went earlier and didn't do that part, we're going to come back around to you, just to make sure you don't feel like you missed your chance. Who's next, Robin?
Thanks, Kelly, and thanks, Greg, for the intro. Next, I've got on the list Lori Ann, just to confirm that Lori Ann is not on the call. Okay, and then next up is Steve.
Sorry, I had to unmute my mic. Steve Swisher. I work for COAD, the Corporation for Ohio Appalachian Development. I am a relatively new training specialist here, and my background is military. I've been a trainer for 18 years. And something I learned during the pandemic, patience.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's been an important one. Thanks very much, Steve. Jay, you're up.
I'm Jay West. I'm a nice guy from out of town, just trying to have a good time. Come on. I think you know that. Some new faces that haven't heard that one before. But Kelly and Suzanne probably heard me say that joke 150 times. So sorry. I started at CETA Weatherization 2008 as an energy auditor. By 2010, we were in ARA. I was a recipient of what I think of as a sort of a master's degree in instructional design and delivery, because I took the initial training courses with Sam and Kelly, and there was a couple other people there. Suzanne was there. And then I actually got to train a workforce that in 2 years did 22,000 retrofits. So we got out there. We didn't have a training center. We didn't have a room to train in. We were on the 30th floor of the financial loop area. We didn't even have a place to park. And we had the biggest weatherization company in the known universe. I don't know that much about the universe, so I just want to, say that. But and then in 2014, I became a consultant. I worked predominantly for Retrotech, but I did a whole bunch of, that was where I kind of got my insight into Greg's comments, did a whole bunch of training, and became a passive house tradesman, and then got into the ResNet stuff and the NEB stuff and commercial stuff and large building testing and all that stuff. Came back to CETA as the training manager, and have recently gone back to consulting, and now I work for Air Advice for Homes. And and what I've learned a few things. Probably most disturbing is I just learned that Pete's been getting onto these dating apps. And that's something that I did learn. And then the other thing I've definitely learned about is doing like wallpaper. I just want to let everybody know, if you're considering doing that self-adhesive sticky wallpaper, don't do it. All right, it's a big lie. They're out there on Pinterest telling you how great it is. It is a pain in the And so I would not do that. And then the other thing just I've learned about is just a variety of knife fighting and man-to-man bare knuckle combat skills. That
So you started a fight club during the pandemic?
I read about. We don't talk about it. Yeah. I read that and I read about it in a book. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you guys so much. I'm happy to be here. And we talking about and next time around we'll talk about what we want to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go Bears.
Jay, pleasure to meet you. Thanks for the tip about the wallpaper. It's helpful.
Don't do it. They make it sound easy. It's a huge pain in the butt. When it sticks onto the wall, it doesn't move. You got to take it back off, put it back on, take it off, put it back on. It starts to stretch out.
Sounds bad.
Just use a regular wallpaper if you're going to do it.
All right. Thank you. Next up is Marta.
Good afternoon. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
My name is Marta Marquez, and I was hired by Louisiana Housing Corporation last October to run the training center. I first learned of weatherization and saw their training center when I came for the job interview, and I was completely blown away. And I thought, I want this job. I hope they give it to me. So they did. My background is in construction. I have a construction management degree from LSU. I did residential construction for a long time. And then after Hurricane Katrina, Louisiana adopted a statewide building code, which we did not have previously. It was everybody to each his own. And you could build an entire house with a $50 sewer permit and no inspections. So I worked for the Code Council for 9 years. And they met monthly to promulgate the code on a 3-year code cycle. And I was responsible for registering and training and educating 1,500 code enforcement officers in Louisiana. And then I went from there to the city of East Baton Rouge Parish, where I was the chief residential plans analyst. And every time I go to something, I have a younger child and an older, a high school and a younger, and they say, "Are you a teacher?" And so for years I said, "No, I'm not." But apparently I have the heart of a teacher. So I'm excited to be in training. We have curriculum developed, but it's out of date. We are looking to update it, get IREC accreditation, and begin training here with our own people in this building. We have an excellent training center that most people don't know about. And during the pandemic, I have a lot of hobbies and interests, so I didn't learn anything new. I guess if I learned anything new, it's that recently I know how to do those fancy balloon garlands that all the moms are doing. And other than that, I'm good.
Well, it's great to meet you, Marta. I don't know about the balloon garland, so learn more about that at some time. But welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next up is Brian.
I don't know if my microphone works. Is it working?
Yes,
Perfect.
We can hear you.
Perfect. Brian Overman. I am a technical trainer at ICER, Indoor Climate Research Training Center in Champaign-Urbana, or Fitz-Em. We can start calling it Shampoo Banana to nickname it. We don't say Urbana first around here. But I have been a commercial construction project manager for the past 25 years, and recently was hired as a trainer here at ICERT. So a lot of my skills are in commercial, but learning to transition to smaller scale. I've also been an instructor in the construction trades program at Parkland Community College here in Champaign. I've been doing that for 21 years. Yeah, and during the pandemic, I wish I was doing sticky wallpaper. We got a puppy. And yes, learned how to give myself haircuts during the pandemic.
That took a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. And last but certainly not least, Lori.
Oops. Hi, Lori Shoup, and I'm from Indoor Climate Research and Training. I work with both Brian and Fitzum, and I've been here like 7.5 years now. And I didn't start out in the role that I have as manager of the training center. It sort of fell to me after a while. I've worn a lot of different hats, and I'm mostly a manager, but I also do oversee the educational part. The trainers were already there when I came in, so I've been more of a coach than anything to our trainers. And the biggest thing we're facing right now is a lot of our trainers are going to be retiring. Actually, they are past retirement age. So we're in the process of trying to hire some more trainers and upgrade our curriculum. And now's a good time to start looking at courses that are already developed, but I think they could be better. And I think they could follow more of the rules that are going to be taught in this class. And a lot of this is familiar to me, but it's been a while since I got my degree in education. So this is a very good course for me to revisit all those principles and try to get those applied in revamping our courses and looking at them and trying to get more of them online. And then as far as anything I learned during the pandemic was how to work effectively from home, because I was so used to going into the office all the time. I was just kind of upset when it was like, no, you can't come into the office, you have to work from home, and I didn't have a home office set up or anything. So I learned how to do workarounds and be patient about putting things into place and making things work out. And now that I'm used to working from home, I'm not sure how anxious I am to be in the office, at least not all the time. So, but that's it for me.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Lori. And thank you all for taking the time to introduce yourselves here at the kickoff of this 7-week course. It's really nice to get a sense of who we all are and hear about the breadth of experiences and valuable learnings during the pandemic. So thank you all.
So next, for those of you who we went over a little early, Kristen, why don't you describe it? I obviously didn't do a very clear job when I tried to explain it.
Well, I definitely heard some people, what Kelly and I want to do is just make sure that we tailor this course to the participants as much as we can so that you get the most out of it. So hearing kind of what your challenges are right now and really what you're hoping to get out of the course is very useful. And many of you mentioned it in your introductions because obviously it's on your mind. And many of you might have similar things. For example, we heard a lot the last time and we continue to hear about how to make courses more engaging. So we know that's definitely a priority. So I guess if there's anyone else who would like to share, kind of what they came to this course to learn, we want to make sure that we get that down so that we can check in with you to make sure that that's what you're working towards as the course moves on. So you might have to kind of speak up and we might have to do a little bit of prioritizing, but just, speak up so we can hear and make sure we know what you're looking for.
Jay, you have your hand up. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah. So as I said, I attended that one a while ago. It did more for me to, it got me fascinated with a couple of aspects. I know that, first of all, this is an instruction systems design workshop. So what we're focused on, I believe, is a system. A systematic way of building and maintaining and updating and developing training content. I know that a lot of people mentioned that they want to make it more engaging. So that kind of brings my area of, or I guess the main reason why I really was dying to be on this one is, Kristen, I didn't know that you took that that master's in, is it online learning?
It's
that
what do they even call it?
Educational technology, and then we do a lot of instructional design and
Right.
online learning. Yep.
Well, I remember when Kelly first took that course, or first started that program, and she suggested it to me. I still have it on a sticky note on my TV. And what I would really like to know is what you guys have learned about sort of the cutting edge techniques and how they apply it. I know that I think a lot of people, and maybe even folks that are on this call, don't realize that in the last 5 to 10 years we've been part of an epoch of advancement in how the human brain works and learning. We have disproven so many things that we thought we knew, like that repeating something over and over is how you learn. That we've learned things, certain things that I've added to my vernacular, like interspersal and time spans between, sort of those little tricks of the trade, and that are so important. Desirable difficulties, probably one of my favorite things, but how the actual human brain works and how to design that, how to build that into your design, your system of design, so that, and then also I think the other thing that I think that I really want to learn more about is how to make sure that our targets are right. But yeah, more than anything, I'm looking for really what is the new cutting edge? What's been refined? Are we still talking about learning objectives the same way that we talked about learning objectives? What about assessments? Are we still thinking of assessments in the same way that we used to? So I'm really looking forward to seeing how science has changed.
That's a good reminder. So I mentioned, can you hear me? Yeah. I mentioned in one of my emails that we offer a bribe if you make it through the whole course and then show up at our debrief at the end. We give you the incentive of you can select from a list of books that kind of cover training, instructional design. And so, Jay, I'll make sure to include a couple that get at what you're talking about, because I'm also find it very fascinating. Looks like someone else has their hand up.
Yeah, that would be me. I just thought that was the right thing to do, so you wouldn't be talking over people. I really like that. What did you say? Some of the terms that you just dropped there, Jay, were pretty good. I wrote them down. But it goes to assessments. I guess I'd like to learn a little bit more about assessments. I think so many of our assessments are, it's a multiple choice question, A, B, C, or D. And it just seems like there are other ways to ask questions. And I know I'm mostly thinking about written exams, and I know there can be field exams where the assessments can be different, but more on assessments, I think. I think I'm fairly comfortable with the objectives part, but writing a good assessment of a candidate or a participant's skills. That's something that came to mind. And that idea of educational technology. I mean, my wife is actually retiring now after 27 years of teaching, and her big complaint was, 26 years spent in the classroom, and then in the last year she had to learn how to do all that stuff online. And while last March it was a pain in the butt, she's really good at it. And she sits in the room right next to me with a big screen TV, and she's got all her students. And I think that the technology that she's been able to harness, the whiteboards and the things like that, I don't even know anything about. And that's something that I think we could try to do if we were engaging more online learning stuff. So educational technologies sound really interesting to me. What kind of, I know there are simulation tools and softwares that we can use. ResCAS, for example, is a simulation for combustion safety. But how sophisticated is that? How much does that interact, or how does that grab people's attention? Or is it something that people just shy away from? So those two things, assessments and more sort of the technologies we can bring to engage people in learning.
That's great. Anyone else?
I think Corey has his hand up.
Yeah, just not to get too deep into it, but I mean, just to touch a little bit on kind of the maintenance of the LMS stuff. I mean, if it's like our traditional stuff, I mean, we've got written lesson plans, you've got PowerPoints, you've got things like that. It's a little bit of a different animal in the LMS, and everybody may be developing slightly different and have a different approach to that. So maybe there's not that much that's different, and you should have lesson plans, and you should. But I mean, I was told very early on, like, one thing about this program and programs like it is that get used to change, because it will change every year, if not more. So when you create this virtual online stuff, so to speak, how much of a time commitment are we getting into before our stuff is outdated and it's a heavy lift with no budget to get it updated and fixed? So any tips or tricks on that, I'd be curious.
Good.
Well, those are all good things. And so it sounds like people, you might have come for similar reasons, might be new reasons. What I think I heard was most people have been training for a while. Did I get that correct? There's a couple of people that were newer to training, but for the most part, you guys have been training whether in weatherization or other fields. And also that several of you have taken other instructional design courses before. So we're certainly going to keep that in mind. And like I said, Kelly and I are most definitely learning alongside with you. What we wanted to do today was show you a little bit about the LMS, the learning management system, so that you're not tripped up by any technical issues kind of with a new learning system. Answer your questions kind of about the layout of the course and what we're going to do, because what we'd like to do is take you kind of from beginning to end on one small topic, so you get to practice what we're recommending as a strategy to do this. And I think overall, what we can say is we've attacked this from a really practical standpoint. So although there is some theoretical learning that we try to impart during this, for the most part, we really try to have you practice things as the way to learn and give feedback, and I'll have you all give feedback as well. But just to address a couple of points that I heard about making online training more engaging and things like that. Good training is good training, whether it's instructor-led or self-paced, whether it's online or in person. And we really hope that you're able to take that away from this course, as well as sometimes we think of shiny and bells and whistles as the coolest way to learn, when in fact it's really what the learner is doing and how we give that learner something to practice that's really practical and is what they're going to do in the field. And we can do that in the most plain way and even cost-effective way, and yet it is still the most effective way to train that person and prepare them for a job in the field. So although we might have suggestions for different online formats or different ways you can try to bring in video or things like that, at the heart of what we're going to be teaching you to do, or hope that you take away from this, is really thinking about what the learner is doing and how you are preparing things that help that learner to practice the decisions they're going to make on the job and the actions they're going to take. Not so much what are you going to tell them, but what are they going to do in your course, whether it's online or in person. So keep that in mind as we go through. And the other big thing is, it's a 6-week course. It goes by pretty quick. Each week we have you do a different assignment, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I guess at the end of the day, if it's like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of stuff, that's fine. Pick, the top 2 or 3 things that you want to leave the class with and focus on them. Like you were saying, I really want to learn more about assessments or, some aspects, and really focus on doing that better. because you know you're going to come back and take another course sometime, or you can always come back to this group and kind of get to that next level. So I always say, don't try to do everything well if you don't want to yet. Try to really focus on certain parts, get that down, and then come back and kind of layer on as well. So that's all I wanted to add, having heard kind of what everybody is saying about what they'd like to learn in this class.
And I would just add, it's in the template, but I know not everyone is not everyone learns so well from reading. So just to add verbally, pay attention to the process. I think that's, to me, what I hope that you come away with from this is that applying recognized learning science to your planning process is going to lead you more consistently to successful transfer of knowledge for your workers, transferring that knowledge to the job. So once you get into it, you'll see it probably progresses in a different order than you typically do for creating curriculum. But just trust in the process, give it a try at least once and see how it feels for you. Corey, what you were talking about with the organizing and updating, I've found going through the process a few times makes it a lot less daunting to be doing that continual review and update. So that jumped out of what you were saying. Jay, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a suggestion too. One of the things that Pete and Marcy and Anthony, who's not on the call, we were doing at CETA, when we had every other week, we had an instructional system design meeting. And it helped me because I trained back to them the things that I had learned. But one of the things that we did was we said, okay, for, the analysis phase for A, what do we already do for analysis? So I think that's another thing too, that as you were talking about being aware of the process, but not just the process that these the folks are teaching or are sharing with us, but think about how you're already doing, because you're probably already doing those things and you might not even notice it. There might be opportunities where you can add, other ways of development or other ways of evaluation, which is my favorite subject.
Is there anything that hasn't been mentioned yet by anyone that that you're really hoping to take away from this course? Al, you made it. You're muted though. Let's unmute you.
No sound yet. Al started his COVID hair about 10 years ago, though.
Al, you're still muted. I'd like to give you a chance to do an intro, though. We all told a little bit about ourselves and what we got up to during the quarantine and what we hope to take away from this course. Like what are some challenges we face now? If you click on the window of the meetings, there should be a little icon that comes up down at the bottom, a little toolbar, and there's a microphone and you can hit unmute, hit the mic. Robin, can you unmute him?
How many of you are tempted to go back into the classroom and just talk with no sound just for fun? See, Ellis.
Well, he's a kinesthetic learner, so he doesn't talk in his classroom.
Okay, if we can't get this sorted, Al, I was talking about, there was another person who couldn't make it today trying to do a practice session between now and our next call. So that now I can't tell if you're really frozen or if you're just messing with us.
Boy, he's really good.
Yeah.
Kelly, do you want to try going into breakout rooms and we'll go over the learning management system in 2 separate rooms?
Yeah, let's test out
Or
that
three. We
functionality.
could do 3 rooms. Robin, we were just going to kind of give people a tour of the Google Drive doc and then the learning management system.
Sure, you were going to do that in small groups?
Well, we
yeah, just as a way to test out the
but
functionality.
we were going to do
Since
both.
we'll be
testing
using the breakout
functionality.
groups in the coming weeks.
Sure. Yep. So you're going to do, in the small groups, we're going to do a tour of both, of the Google Doc and of the LMS.
We could do that.
And then, Kristen, do you want to come back together and then go over the whole schedule, kind of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a long breakout.
Okay. All right. So I'll manually assign folks to breakout rooms starting now, and we'll do 3 groups. We'll have 2 groups, each led by Kelly and Kristen, and then a 3rd group will stay here in the main meeting with me.
And then why don't you bring us back at like, like 2:40 in 12 minutes?
Okay.
Is that right?
I'm just going down the list assigning, so a little bit random.
Something to think about, I guess. I like that there are so many people from the same training organizations so that you can be working together and doing peer review. Be thinking about if for the breakout sessions, if you think there would be value in splitting up your group. So you're hearing from the different, Robin will lead one, Kristen will lead one, and I'll lead one. Or if you'd like to stay together so we can figure out if we want kind of fixed breakout groups.
This is Suzanne. From my perspective, I think our team meets regularly and goes over things, and we'll be doing that after. So splitting us up so we can learn from others would be great.
I concur. This is Lori from iCert. I'd sort of like for the 3 of us to be broken apart to get different perspectives and come back together and see how that could benefit our center.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, I'm going to start rooms now, and we'll come back at 40 minutes after.
Are we taking a break or are we going straight into the rooms? We're going straight in the rooms, right?
Straight into the room.
No
Okay.
breaks for you. No breaks for you.
See?
All right. Have the other rooms left? Not quite yet. Oh, it's happening now.
Nice. Just 3
All
of us.
right. The miracle of technology.
Yeah,
It
that's
looks
awesome.
like there should be 5 of us. We have Steve, Jay, Marta, Brian, and Lori, I believe.
Marcy. We got
Marcy.
We might have Marcy and Marta. We got 2
Marcy and Marta.
M&Ms.
Great. Okay.
Isn't that funny? Got 2 M&Ms. Tight.
2 M&Ms and 2 bald guys.
Who's the other bald guy?
Can you not see me?
No.
I
Oh,
don't have a
my
video
camera's-
for you, Steve. I see you talking.
Robin, in the future, could you put Brian and I in 2 different groups?
Absolutely. I think for today, we just did this on the fly to do
Sure.
a little bit of navigating through some of the resources. But yeah, we'll take your feedback on board for future
Okay,
organization.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And let me just take a moment to get there's a little surprise planned for these breakout groups. Let me just get the right screens open. So we had included in the invite for today's meeting the link to the Google Drive. So I'm just going to open that up now. And then we'll be using Litmus. Why isn't it there as the LMS? And so have you all registered for Litmus already as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great, good. This should be a pretty quick and easy walkthrough. While I get my technology together here, does anybody have any questions for me?
No, I was going to ask Marcy, when did you do your hair? I haven't seen you since March, I think.
I know, you know what? It's summer. And this is going to be my summer color. But I realized that Since you left, you gave me so much gray hair while we worked. Got lighter. And I was like, man, I look like the sun.
It's beautiful. Sun-kissed. Yeah.
Yes, Jay is responsible for all of this stuff here.
That's from thinking too hard.
Him and Pete. Him and Pete.
All right, can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, good. So here we are in the Google Drive, and let's see. There is, I see that a lot of folks have been in here making their versions of the coursework template, so that's great. It looks like maybe somebody has saved over the original template document, so I'll maybe go in and get that back in. But the vision was that you would take the coursework template original file and just add your name as an underscore. So I see that, oh, here's a blank one. But right, so the idea is that you'll use this document, and I'm just gonna, Chris, this may be yours. I think you're not on the call, but perhaps you've all taken the opportunity to go through and see this, but we've done some learning from one session to the next, and we learned that it's, rather than ask you to submit separate documents for each one of these assignments, since each one from week to week is building on the next, we realized that it would make sense to just have you do all of your assignments in the same one document. So each week you'll complete your assignment here. We'll have a session of peer review where another member of the cohort will come in and provide some comments on your first assignment. And then the instructors, Kelly and Kristen, will review and add some additional comments as well. So I guess we're looking at Greg's as an example, but we'll come on in here and update this page with your information on your specific topic if you haven't already done it. And then throughout, you'll see that there are sort of tips and examples for how to complete each assignment within the document. So at the end of the course, when you're submitting a final document that goes through each one of these lessons, you can go through and delete anything that appears in gray, so you've just got a clean copy. I would recommend keeping a version for yourself if you'd like, with these tips on how you arrived at your final document, and then to have a final version that doesn't have that additional information in it. So each of these headings are the indicator of the beginning of the next assignment. So we'll start with learning objectives, move on to assessment and developing multiple choice test items, etc. Any questions for me about the template? Has anyone had trouble getting in here and making their own?
I was a little bit confused about, one of them's a Google Doc and the other one's a Word doc. Does that make any difference?
That's a good question. I have to say that Google Drive is not my native environment. And so I think that when we put the original document in here, I put it in as a Word doc, but I see that we've got a variety. Does anyone have experience or a recommendation of whether it's easier to work in Google in a Google Doc or a Word doc?
Well, I know that there's some functionality loss when they transfer. So whatever the original one was, but when I first opened mine up, it was in Word, and it could have been just me, but it did not look right. It didn't look the same as when I went to a different copy. I made a copy of a Word one. Chris W. Is there anybody in our group right now that is working out of a Word?
No, mine came up as a Google Doc.
Okay, so Word was the one, I think the one I just opened was Word. So was that you, Jay, talking?
It was.
Yeah, so I'm going to open up yours if you don't mind.
Hey.
And so this one you're saying is coming up as a Google Doc, and some things looked weird in here, huh?
No, the Word one did.
Oh, okay. So you opened it as a Google Doc instead, and it worked better.
It worked, yeah. It looked different, and again, that could have been, just a moment. That could have been in the moment, or it could have been an isolated experience. But it might be something worth investigating to make sure before we get started.
Okay.
you know, that other people aren't losing large chunks of, you know, maybe images or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. That's a good tip. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts or questions about this template? Observations for us to keep in mind.
This is Lori. I just wanted to say that I'm not very comfortable with Google Docs. I'll do the best I can to work in them. I prefer Word just because I'm sort of a technophobe, but if Google Docs is the preferred document, that's fine. Mine opened up as Google Docs. I saved it to someplace else. I don't know how I got where I did, but I managed to get it back here to my drive. So it's shared. So
okay.
That's about all I got to say.
I'm looking for yours, Lori. Which one? Oh, you're
AC
shoot.
That's the course, part of the course that I hope to look at and work on. And I don't have anything in there. I just named it. I didn't know I was supposed to go in and put more information in there. So I need to do that.
Starting by creating it is perfect. That's great. And so as we go along, you can come in and personalize it even more. But just as long as you have this home base already created, that's excellent.
Okay.
And we can help sort of troubleshoot along the way. So please communicate with Kelly or Kristen or me if you're having any issues with the technology, and we're here to help. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to pop over to is the LMS. Has anybody not already registered with the LMS?
Oh, I haven't yet.
Okay.
I haven't either.
Okay. I believe there are instructions in a recent email from Kelly about how to get in here. And once you do, this is what you'll see. So the ISD course isn't open to everyone who already has access to the WAP LMS. So you'll need to come to home to see what's available. And this ISD session 2 is the learning path that we're using for this course. And so once you're in it, you can see that we've got the 7 weeks of learning available in the course itself. And so you'll just make your way through on a weekly basis each session. So the ISD Welcome is a useful lesson. Let's see. And starts with an overview page on how to use the different aspects of the course. Another way to access each one of the lessons is to come back to home and to your dashboard. And you can see each one of the lessons. Let's see. You can see each one of the lessons individually. And as I'm in it now, I'm realizing that because we've created a separate learning path for this second session, I don't have quite as much visibility as I expected to. So you should be able to see ISD 2 and then a lesson for each one of the 6 lessons of the course. Oh, let's see. I think actually I stand corrected. I think all we can see is the current session. So ISD 1, Intro to a Systems Approach, is where you'll start. And then for each week, you'll see that you'll just go through these different components one by one. So there's a combination of videos and activities, a discussion forum. And then for each lesson, there are also additional references. And this is a pretty key section. So you can get the lesson overview here, and that's going to give you just step by step. Each one of these is a document that you can download, but step by step, sort of what's happening and what you can expect in the given week. Let's see. So I know that this was kind of a high level. You're going to get much more familiar with the LMS as we go through. And I see that we're just a little bit over time. So I'm going to bring us back to the main group. And if any of you have questions about the LMS, I bet Kelly and Kristen are going to be able to answer them very well also. I'm going to come back here. And I'm going to close the rooms.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Al.
Ain't that the luck?
Video and audio. Welcome. Awesome.
So has everybody gone off into groups, or is this just the end of today, or what's?
We went into breakout
Point where
groups.
it
and
feels
we're
a
just
little
ending
messy.
them.
Oh, here we are. I thought you abandoned us, Robin. We were left alone.
I realized at 41 that I was off talking about the LMS and it was time to bring you all back. So
It was very short time, so no problem, but it certainly worked well in our room, hopefully to come in and out, and we got the 10-second warning on the way back. So
okay, good. Glad to hear it. I gave our group in the main room an abbreviated overview of the LMS. So if you had anything else to cover there, I'm sure that the larger group would benefit.
yeah, that's all we did too. And so just to kind of show everybody, and if there's somebody, so I found out, I think it was Pamela, that doesn't have access to the LMS, maybe I didn't assign you. So if you are not seeing all of the modules that we just displayed to you with a search of ISD, it's not going to be in your content library. It's going to be in your home screen. If you are not seeing that, we need to know so that we can make sure you're in there. And then, so what we wanted to do kind of for these last 15 minutes is tell you a little bit about kind of the bigger picture assignment. And Kelly and Robin, all I did was share that document on my screen and say, okay, you're going to put everything in here. But I didn't give kind of the bigger picture of, how we're going to use that, how we're going to carry that all the way through. And we did talk briefly in my group about, well, what size task or topic should I pick? So if Kelly, if you want to pick up there and kind of, build on that, I think that would be probably a useful part before we make sure people understand what they're working on for this week.
Great. Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull up the document again. Let me know. Can you see the Google Doc now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I can't see the chat when I'm also sharing. Yeah, so everyone, this is going to be a lot of information all at once, but don't worry, it's in each of your weekly lesson overviews for the week, so you can pace yourself, and it's also all included right here in the template. So the gray boxes are generally kind of guidance and instruction, and you can go ahead and delete those as you're going through if you don't need them anymore, or you can make a copy of this to save, an empty one and then delete it in the one you're going to be submitting as your final project. But essentially, we want you to pick, I think it works best if it's something that you would teach in maybe 1 to 4 hours. That's kind of a manageable amount of time. So, oh, Jay, I pulled yours up by mistake. Sorry. We have all the fields for you to give everyone the context. And then you're going to go through, and I gave you an example of a terminal learning objective and some enabling ones. You don't have to use this kind of organization, but then you get to do your own. And you're going to be learning about all this stuff all the way through, indicate the level of learning. I like using a reference number because, as you'll see going through this process, it's really iterative. So I don't want you to get frustrated if we're already done the learning objective lesson and week and you've submitted your assignment, and then the next week you're working on multiple choice test items, and you might think, oh, now that I'm trying to write an item to assess this, I realize maybe I worded that wrong, or I used the wrong level of learning verb in my learning objective. And so it's not a failure to go back and update something. Or if somebody is looking at your multiple choice test items and they have some feedback about it doesn't really seem to fit the learning objective, it's not, you don't have to think that it's too late or done until the very end of the course. And this is just how it works every single time. So you'll have a set of learning objectives, then you'll think of how you're going to assess them, which could be multiple choice test items, or we have a rubric that comes the next week. And We say it's for hands-on stuff, but Greg, to your point, you can also use these for a little more creative assessments. Like I've done some online training where they get a sample client file and photos of a house, and they have to kind of do an inspection and write it up as if they were for a monitoring report. And you can develop a rubric for that kind of activity too. So don't get too caught up in the hands-on requirement, though that is what rubrics are generally kind of linked to. And then getting toward the end is when we get into the stuff you were talking about, Jay, where we're going to introduce you to a few different learning models that different scientists have come up with, look at how they're structured, look at what they all have in common, and then you'll pick one and you'll kind of put everything all together into this lesson plan, and you can delete the ones that you decide not to use. And then finally, we should be thinking about evaluation all the way through, as you'll learn next week when we go over the ADDIE model. But you'll do pick a course that you've already worked on. Obviously, it won't be this one because it's new, and you'll gather data and you'll practice doing a course assessment and doing something with that assessment, like deciding how you would update or change your course based on that. So that's how we kind of walk you through the weeks here. I see Pam has her hand up. Pam?
Hi, I do. Just have a quick question. If we do change something from an earlier lesson, is there a way you want us to flag it so that it's apparent to y'all, or since you're going to be looking at it too? Like make it red font, or, put a comment in or something like that?
What do you think, Kristen? I think I could kind of go either way.
Yeah, I don't think you have to. Typically, if I'm looking at, but you might want to carry it through. So for example, when you're doing your assessment items, it's nice to have your learning objective right there. So I can say like, okay, yeah, I see how you're assessing this learning objective. So I think it's more about just kind of consistently, making that change throughout if it's in multiple places.
Great, thank you.
And that's why I use the reference number, because I that's where one of those parts that gets so messy when you have the same thing in like 8 places and then you change it somewhere. And yeah, so yeah, don't need to flag it, because if we're looking at an assessment item and you just have a reference, we'll go up to where it's in your learning objective. So if you've changed it there, we'll see it in the context of that, tying it all together. I know we're really close to the end of our time. Does anyone have any other questions about this stuff? And then after, Kristen, you can maybe walk us through this week, what to expect. Give them a minute. I don't see any.
Yep. Before we get off, I'd like everybody, if you haven't already, to, and Pamela, I think you said you couldn't access the online. We might have to have you share your screen or do it afterwards, because it looks like you are assigned. And so I just want to make, I'm not sure what else to try. She wasn't able to see the modules the same way in the learning path that I was demonstrating. So Kelly, can you go to the learning management system for just a minute?
Yeah, one sec. And I had to help, Jay had an issue with his accounts as well. And
yeah, so anybody else? Okay, good. So maybe you can make a suggestion for Pamela. So.
Well, with Jay, I just went in as administrator, and I had to send him a link. So I'll try it with you, okay. Pam. We'll see if it works. We'll work on that after.
Okay. So everybody should have access to the learning path. And that would have been kind of a link sent to your email that says from the, WAP Litmus LMS or something like that. And that's where you'll work on the things for this week. So anybody who might have that open, can anybody tell us what you will be working on this week? I'm going to give everybody a minute to pull that up, because I'm sure that everybody will be able to figure that out. Yes, Al.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank God. Sorry, it took me so long to finally get in here. I just wanted to ask you a question. I think I've been following it because I've been coming in and out. Just for those of you that may not know me, my name's Al McMahon. I'm a trainer here in Nice-Wada, New York State. I apologize for the lag time and the coming in and out. I just wanted to ask. I'm in the ISD Session 2 site where I've got the online course where it shows ISD Intro to a Systems Approach. So I've seen that. And so this week, am I correct in understanding that that's section 1 I'm going to go through?
Yep.
And then I have got the link which allowed me to go to the Google Drive, and I went in and took a copy of the coursework template, copied it, changed it, and just put my name in it because I don't yet have the subject of what I'm going to be doing, which is what you were just asking. And I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to go through that entire document to use that to kind of, between that and the other items in the ISD, to kind of lead me through how to fill that form out. And that's the goal for this week, and then save that before next week's meeting. Is that, am I correct on what I'm doing?
Okay. What do people think?
Yes.
Yep.
I think he's on track.
I
Okay.
give
I'm
you
going to try to get that
A+.
0% up to 100. I'm going to try to get
There you
from
go.
0 to 100.
I did warn everybody that we have a little trouble completing these, even if you do everything, completing these green circles to see 100% here. So apologies.
I'll just put it on the monitor.
Perfect.
Kristen, as I mentioned, my group's overview of the LMS was what was really cursory. So anything you can do to help just make sure the whole group knows the plan.
Yep. So as Al said, we are in the learning path. So that's where you can see all of the they're called courses, you know, this welcome and the ISD 1 and 2. So all the courses are in here. And this week we are doing this first ISD 1 course. And there's a written overview or a video overview intro that you can just make sure you understand everything that's asked of you. There's narrated PowerPoint videos to watch, and then self-paced activities that you can do. And then, as Al mentioned, the only real assignment for the week is to go into this shared Google Drive folder. Everybody has permissions to kind of view and edit everything in here. And you're going to be creating a copy here. And I think there was instructions about how to name it, because ultimately everybody's going to have one, and it's going to have your topic. But you do not have to necessarily complete anything in it. It's going to be after we meet at the next week, after the 16th, we will start on the learning objectives, and you'll fill in that, and that's what we'll work on the second week. So this is the very beginning of the first week. We'll meet again at the end of the first week, and then this is going to be about, this is what I call kind of the more theoretical week about the systems approach, and then it gets into kind of the rubber meets the road right after that. Anything else that anybody would like to point out, while either something that they'd like to see on the screen or ask about?
No, I just want to, I know I put this in the chat, but the mistake that I made was when I registered to sign in, or when I registered for Litmus, I pushed the button and it didn't. I didn't think anything happened, so I pushed it again. So just be careful with that, because that's what I did to screw it up.
Huh. Good to
Looks
know.
like Al has his hand up too.
Lessons learned.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. I have a fellow trainer here who's actually training this week, and I'm going to be doing a BA class next week. So where will I be able to get a video of the meeting of next week after it's done, so I can catch up and get the new assignments?
Robin, will you send that around after? I could upload it onto my YouTube channel, or
just like you can shoot me a link at some point about how to get that, I guess.
okay, I'll make a note of that. I guess one other tip I would recommend that people do this week, and I don't think I included it in the course overview, although we did include it in the syllabus, but I know there's a lot there, is since you don't have like an official assignment this week other than familiarizing yourself with the resources, I would take time and block out your calendar. You know, you're gonna spend, in addition to our 90-minute weekly in-person sessions, you're gonna want to set aside, you know, 5 or 6 hours where you really get to just work on this. I find it easiest to have a little bit of time every day, but maybe for you it's having a bigger chunk a couple times a week or something. But we completely relate to the realities. You're doing this, it is part of your job, but it's kind of this outside thing, and it's so easy for that time to get lost to you or to get pulled into meetings. But if you have it on your calendar as that you've scheduled this off and dedicated it, I think you're a lot more likely to experience success in because this is a lot of, you know, it's not like going to a class where if you aren't paying attention, we'll know. Like it really boils down to you being able to figure out how you work when you're on your own for most of the week, you know. So that's one other tip I would say.
Agreed. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anybody has their marching orders for the week and before we meet back again next Wednesday? Okay.
Hearing none.
They're ready to get to work.
Nice to meet everybody in passing. Let's see.
Yeah, it was good to see some familiar faces and nice to meet all of the new people. I really look forward to working with you all over the next 6 weeks. I'm really excited to see what you come up with. The last cohort really blew me away with the caliber and the quantity of work that they were able to complete compared to at our in-person, which is just so condensed. So I expect great things of you as well.
All right, we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Thanks for your help, Robin.